Alright, what the heck have we got here today before us? We've got something quite unusual as far as the Canadian horological landscape goes. Not entirely unheard of, but uncommon in my area, anyway. We have a Smith's Pinger kitchen timer here before us. And the reason why I even know the model name is because I know a British collector, and he was able to get me the advertising for this. And if I feel like it, I'll put it on screen. But if not, I'll try and link it in the description. Anyway, Smith's Pinger kitchen timer. Apparently she's from 1952. This timer was already serviced by me. In fact, I already pulled this entire thing apart. But then when I went to go cook dinner here tonight, I tried to start my timer and nothing. There's no on switch. All you do is turn the knob. This is how it works. In fact, the directions are right here. Minute timer, turn past 5. Yep, go all the way, go wherever you want. Then set the time. The time is set. It should be running right now. Well, nothing's happening. If we turn it to 0, we get that crystal clear noise that is quite, it's loud, I'd say. You'll definitely hear it if you're in another room in your house somewhere else. So yes, I actually do use these types of timers to cook. I think the newer versions of these timers kind of suck, but don't quote me on that because I haven't worked on very many. I've only screwed around with one, and that video is still public on my channel today. I never did get that thing back together. But as for these older timers, these are well, actually, I don't know if these are built to be repaired, but you can get into them in any case, and I did repair this one once, so let's do it again. The center knob just comes right off like that, and this is where it gets less obvious. You'd think that maybe you'd unscrew the bell on the back, but that's not at all what happens. Let's see if we can kind of pop this out without shattering it. This is cracked. We might be able to use that to our advantage. I don't like doing this, but I don't know if there's any other really good way of dealing with it. Unfortunately, these feet don't really help us either. You literally have to get this crystal off, or else this thing will not come apart. See that? Goodness sake. Okay. That's why I put disclaimers on these videos. How can I get that off? I know I'll try not to scratch the heck out of all of it here. Okay. If we can get that back there, maybe we can pry this up. Not like that. Boy, oh boy, I'm making a mess of this, aren't I? Come on. Maybe there's some type of tool I can use to gently reach in there and like possibly like get like way the heck back there. And for the little indicator, the paint is really loose on there. Like it's like if I hit that the wrong way, it's just gonna, you know, there's gonna be paint chipping every which way. And in fact, I just saw some more there. What can I reach back there to get? Okay, maybe this is more promising. Try not to scratch up the dial. Oh, or crack it. Goodness gracious. Yeah, this is what actually happens when you're working on these things, guys. Sometimes it's not the most pleasant. But you're getting the real, raw, unedited approach. Honestly, in the state this was in, I'm not too worried about, you know, minimal cracks on this. This isn't somebody else's timer. It is mine. As much as I'd love to preserve this and keep this, you know, in mint condition, it just wasn't that way to start with. And I know using a screwdriver is not the greatest way to get in here. I'm trying to mentally comprehend what other tool. Actually, hey, why don't I use a watch case opener? Why don't I try and reach one of those back, like a case knife? Why don't I use one of those? Actually, we can try first with an actual knife. And again, I did get this open before, but I think it was sort of the same not very graceful approach that I'm taking now. Not that I chipped it or cracked it then, but Yeah, it wasn't the Great Gatsby getting this thing open the first time. Let's see here. There's a screwdriver I can utilize. Whoa, there. Okay, we'll try that. We'll try this first, actually. We'll try an even smaller screwdriver. Okay, that is smaller, just to make sure it actually is. Nope. Oh. Okay, there we go. Kinda. It went and moved up a bit. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what? Let's not make a mess out of this, shall we? Let's get our case knife. Just experimented with something entirely different. I've used an actual full-blown, I don't know what type of knife you'd call this, a pocket knife. And we seem to be actually getting somewhere here. There she is. Whoa, let's not stab ourselves or the timer. Yeah, that's not the most graceful way of getting in. I'm not even sure. Could you have wrapped this in tape, maybe? That may have been better. I'm honestly not too sure about that. I mean, ultimately, if this gets shattered, worst case scenario, you leave it with the, the crystal off. But this is just an extra level of protection that you'd probably want. I still haven't quite figured out the best way of getting some of those things off. And then this needs to be pried off as well. But because I've been in here before, this should just loosely, yeah, it just comes right off. Okay. Now for the meat and potatoes of this thing. Just get in there very gently with my, there we go. I'm prying under the dial, not on top of it. There we go, metal dial. Okay, there's our movement now. We'll figure out why we are not working. And by the way, I don't know if a case knife would have been much better than what I had here, because it's all steel anyway. But, you know what? Maybe that's something for next time. I'm not sure. You've got your 2 screws here holding the movement in. You've passed the hardest part of the whole thing, I think, at this point. Okay, there goes the bell. Oh, there's my original service. Let me see. November 29th, 2022. Or 23, sorry. So it hasn't been that long since I've been in here. Okay, there's our ringer mechanism. We'll take a look at that more in a second. And here we are. Okay. So we've got our case. We've got our I don't know what type of plastic that is, but it is very fragile. And I've just got some, bits of plastic here on my mat, just from trying to get this thing apart. Not the master watchmaker way of getting in, I know. If you have any suggestions in the comments, please let me know. The more we can preserve these things, the better. Or the easier it is to preserve them, I suppose. But half the time, it's all a matter of just people not having the knowledge to do so, myself included. There's our dial. Again, made in England. British timer. Canadian clock butcher. And here we go. So here's our movement. We'll turn the phone light on so you can see what's cooking. And is the phone light not going to come on? No, it's not. Oh, well, I've just found out the entire problem of the... Okay, well, I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but we'll take a tour of this thing anyway. And we will, we'll get what we get out of this. I remember last time I was in here, this screw thread here was stripped. So that screw is gonzo. But as for the other 3, we're still good. I'm not sure what that arrow is pointing at. Maybe that was for the gear train direction? I'm not sure. Anyway, so if we look in this thing, it's not too dissimilar to an alarm clock. I think the most different thing about it is this wheel right here, which we'll try and pop back into place. Yeah, that needs to be screwed in further. Or unscrewed. This just loosens up. Boy, I thought there'd be more to this than... or more wrong with this than I thought, but apparently not. Actually, while our quote-unquote balance wheel is out of this thing, let's see what it does without that. So these timers, they're only meant to run for 1 hour. So with, keeping that in mind, you can make a lot of exceptions with that. And, or a lot of cuts, I should say. This thing uses a single mainspring, which is in there way the heck in the middle. She's all coiled up. And there's our, let's see if I can get even closer. There's our great wheel. And as you can see, that spring, like, it's literally just retained by these brass tabs, which are pressed in. They'd be pressed in by some machine at the Smith's factory there. We've got, yeah, a great wheel, first wheel, second wheel, third wheel. We've got our escape wheel, and then we've got our cross between a balance wheel and, well, I don't know what else what else this would be a cross with. There's a nice piece of plastic on there. This is technically a balance wheel, but there's no hairspring. So I'm not sure what you'd even describe that as. But that is still the that is still the escape wheel. So if we wind this up, or actually let me just hold it. There we go. So you can see there, the wheels run down because there's, you know, we're lacking our. Oh yeah, I know what this is a cross between now. This is a cross between a pallet fork and a balance wheel. That is what that is. It doubles as both. And we'll see that in a minute. So you can see this thing just completely running down. And if you're wondering what that mechanism is on the back, you just saw it in action there. Probably some of you already know what that is. If you wind this up, that is for the bell in here. So there's that cam in the middle, which is shaped a certain way. And she runs all the way down. And she hits that, and that's our ringer. That's our ping right there. Now, because there's nothing else wrong with this, I won't take this thing further apart, but yeah, like I said, I was in here, you know, literally last year, and I'm happy to see that this is the only thing that's just popped out of place. I guess I didn't align this correctly. We'll re-oil our balance pivots here, or our balance, or our cone bearings, or whatever you want to call them, the balance cups in here. I'll re-oil those and then get this thing back in here so we can see this thing in operation. This is not the only movement this isn't the only timer that has a movement like this inside. That 2012, whenever the heck, that Taylor timer I did a number of years ago, that thing had a more sophisticated movement, and also the Lux Minute Minder had a more sophisticated movement than this. It was a similar idea, but it was a drastic, well, actually I shouldn't even say drastically different, because it really wasn't. All it had was just a proper hairspring and balance wheel. That was really the only difference, almost. Just get, I'll get that nice and oiled up. There we go. I think that's more or less going to be it for that. Okay. Well, it's definitely not going to work if the balance wheel, or the, yeah, I guess that what is technically the balance wheel, if that's knocked out of place, it's not going to run, is it? So let's just flip this guy back over. Let me think here. Actually, while I'm here, are there any good servicing pointers I can think of that are actually worth sharing with the class here? Not really. I mean, this piece comes off, and you just align this piece here with, you know, the movement plate. These are so simple. I mean, if you take pictures and all that while you're disassembling, you are more than good. And in fact, if the spring in yours is wound up, all you have to do is literally remove the balance wheel to unwind the spring. Unwind the mainspring in this. Or you could just, actually, I've got an even better idea. Actually, I'm thinking, my mind is stuck on alarm clocks, but in actuality, all you'd have to do is just literally turn this knob, you know. Now it's wound. Now it's not. Actually, wait a minute. It is still wound. The way these timers work, they don't use all their spring power. You can still see it's still wound up in there. And when you take these plates apart, that spring is going to go doing, you know, and go up against its little barrier plates there. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's put this together. Actually, just as a closer look at that wheel, you can see the pins on this are only on one side. So there is a definite right way and wrong way to put this thing back in. You definitely don't need to look at a time graph, or I think that's what they're called. You definitely don't need to look at one of those to tell that, hey, there might be something wrong with the beat in this in this movement. Yes, for a 1 hour alarm clock movement. That's basically what this is. Actually, fun fact. Well, what's fun about it? That is the question. Let's call it a fact. Let's try that again. There's people used to use alarm clocks before kitchen timers were a popular invention. In fact, I think before the kitchen timer was invented, the alarm clock was just, you had an alarm clock in your kitchen to time your dinners, how long you can be cooking your turkey for. I mean, you could do that if you needed a turkey in your cast iron gas stove for 6 hours, or maybe you had an electric stove. If you needed that in there for 6 hours or more, you could do that. With an alarm clock, you could totally do that. And even up until with that little scenario right there, you'd need an alarm clock still. This cannot run for 6 hours. It definitely won't run accurately, I don't think. Especially since there's really no way to regulate this movement. But you know what? For 1 hour, it'll cut that. It'll do that just fine. So, in the spirit of the 1 hour movement, this is the way this works. You've got that balance wheel that doubles as a pallet fork. Actually, it's probably more pallet fork than balance wheel. It's just in the shape of the balance wheel. But really, all it does is, it's got the impulse pins, and they go it rattles its way down. That's what this does. That's all that this movement has to offer, I suppose. These are fun. These are made well. You can repair them. And again, if there was more wrong with this, we would go more extensively, we'd go further into this movement. There's not too much more to see. Like I said, you got your gear train, you have your mainspring in there. It's not too hard to repair this style of movement. Like that Taylor timer that I was working on. Again, if you haven't seen the video, don't worry about it. But there was a timer I was working on way back in the day, and I couldn't get it back together. I don't think my photos and all that were good enough for it. And I ended up losing some pieces somewhere along the line. So, just threw it in threw what's left of it in the parts drawer and just said, to heck with it. It's not even worth doing. But in the future, if I do get more kitchen timers, and if I do get a timer with that same hard-to-work-on movement, then I'll, make a video on it, and I'll be more careful next time. But, yeah, consumer horology, good stuff, good stuff. I like it. This is made to last, and we can put this back together, and we can resume cooking meals with this Smith's Pinger. A very simple to work on movement. And again, this was just my own clumsiness with this cone bearing here. I probably didn't have the thing tight enough. That's probably what happened, and it popped out one of these days. Maybe it got bumped or something, who knows. It's in a kitchen. It's actively living in a kitchen, doing what it's intended to do. So I thought this was interesting, and plus Pin Palette 20, or actually I shouldn't even call him that anymore because he changed his username, as did I. The Vintage Alarm Clock Club YouTube channel. He's British. He works on Smith's stuff all the time. He really wanted to see the inside of this. So here you go. Here you go, Dougal. All that, just think, all that spring pressure is on these, or on this little gear teeth, or on these gear teeth here. On this interaction between these two teeth here. That's where all that tension is leading. And then it slowly gets transferred out. Fun. Fun, fun, fun. I may even give this another dab of oil. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do that. Just to, just to really kind of make sure it's actually properly oiled. I did do this last time, but again, I've been messing around with it, so we'll get that oil flow back how it should be. That's more than enough right there. There we go. And that'll get distributed. I know that was such a bad oil application. Don't. Usually I'm more careful with it, but this time I'm not. Okay, let's put this back together. There's something neat I've just noticed here. There's a stamp that says 52. Could that be 1952? Is that a date code? Not exactly entirely positive on that, but you never know with this type of stuff. These guys did all kinds of crazy things with their date codes as far as Westclock and Smiths went. I don't know if Smiths even had a definitive date code system. Is this not going to go back on now? We're gonna play hard to get. Yeah, easy. It's definitely not easy come, easy go on this one. Holy smokes. There, that's more like it. That's what you want to hear. So you can time it for 10 minutes, you can time it for 55 minutes, whatever you want. I think we'll end our video just like that. Let you guys get a nice definitive perspective on how these are supposed to, on what to expect, I suppose, from one of these kitchen timers. And of course now, like your oven, your microwave, everything has a timer on it. Your phone does, of course. The phone ended up having to stand in for this one. You know, we've all used them before, but they don't have what these have. All those other timers. I'm fine with electric timers, but as long as there's that dial and hand kind of, you know, element, then you're off to grandma's house. Both literally and figuratively. My grandma had a timer which unfortunately got chucked out. It was younger than this one, but the movement operated the same way. And how I know that is just by judging, you know, what noise this is making, judging using the sound alone. A pin pallet escapement is not going to make that. It's not going to sound like that, you know. So there she is. Dinner has been served. And now, this thing doesn't keep running forever. That cam that we saw earlier will run into that stopper, and then the whole movement, like that cam is directly attached to the center wheel. It's going to run into the stopper, stop the center wheel from moving, and that's going to be the end of it. And see, that's just happened now, and the thing has gone completely silent. So it stopped when it's, you know, it has stopped when it is meant to stop. And here's the back, so you guys get a nice look at that. You can see my ceiling that's missing tiles. You can see me too. Smith's, made in England. That bell is riveted on there. Don't even try to pull it off this way. Cute timer. Good time. Makes cooking more interesting. Character, charm, dial in hand. You know, what more could you possibly ask for?